Alright, welcome back to Resident Evil Relaxation. This is Gulpane, and today we're going through every IGN Resident Evil review ever. So I saw bawkbasoup, one of my favorite, well, probably my favorite Twitch streamer, who does lots of Resident Evil games and horror games, 8 hours a day. I think it's amazing. But he went through and reviewed basically all of the IGN Resident Evil reviews, and I thought I'd do the same as a homage to bawkbasoup on right here on Resident Evil Relaxation. So let's get to the Resident Evil reviews. So here we have the first Resident Evil. They give it an 8.7. There is some spiel about it as well over here. So at the heart. So basically, yeah. So I'm just going to say whether I agree or disagree with the scores. So first Resident Evil 8.7, I have to disagree with that. I think that should be way higher. When Resident Evil first came out, it must have blown people away. Personally, I didn't play the first one when it came out initially, because maybe I was too young. I can't remember, but I didn't play the very first one when it came out. I played Resident Evil 2 when it came out, and I was amazed by it. And then Resident Evil 3. So Resident Evil 1 never seemed as good to me. But going back and playing it again, I really do kind of like it. Obviously, I mean, this is when it came out at the time, IGN, so they would have been. I don't know what they were thinking with this score, but with the remake of Resident Evil 1, kind of the original Resident Evil is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of lost a bit. A lot of people still like it. Like people that, you know, they can finish it like in less than an hour and stuff like that. It's amazing, but it's absolutely top drawer. I don't know, I disagree with that one. I'd give that a higher score myself. And then Resident Evil remake on the GameCube, I would definitely give that a higher score as well. That is the one of the best remakes ever. I have to say, like, obviously I haven't played the GameCube version. I first played it on Wii, but it was a bit washed out, and I played it on the PS4, the PS4 remake, the remastered version. So I love it, and oh, what a remake! I'd actually have that higher as well. So I disagree with that one. We've got Resident Evil Archives, Resident Evil. So that is Resident Evil Deadly Silence, I believe, on the DS. I think so, anyway. So that's strange that they gave it such a low score as well. I think IGN a lot of the times they will give it a lower score if it's a remake or a port of a game, like a later port a few years later, and they haven't really, like, the developers haven't really updated it or anything like that. But I think Resident Evil on the DS is pretty good. You know, considering the hardware and all that, it looks really good. But again, they've done a bit with it, but not that much. So I can understand why IGN scored it so low. And this is right. That's Resident Evil Archive. So that's Resident Evil Remake on the Wii. That's the first time I played the original Resident Evil Remake, and 8.0, I'd probably give it more as well because, well, I really like Resident Evil. But again, I'm looking at it through a PS4 remastered version, kind of kind of lens. So I might be, I don't know. I'd have to go back and play the Wii one again. I mean, it's the same gameplay roughly. Like it is a bit annoying when you have to play with the crappy Wii remote. You really need to plug in that little kind of the little white joypad that you can plug into the side of the Wiimote. But it is quite annoying to play with the nunchuck and all that, I can imagine. I don't think I played it with the nunchuck actually. But yeah, I'd probably give that a bit higher as well. And then that's the remake. So wait a minute, the Wii version and the PS4 remaster. Let me just check if that's is that the remaster? Yeah, it is the remaster. Get the same score. I wouldn't agree with that. I'd I'd initially probably give it more, but I mean, I have watched reviews of kind of comparisons between the Resident Evil 1 remake on GameCube and on Wii, and then the remaster. And some of the backgrounds, all right, are kind of, they haven't been updated. They've just been kind of stretched a little bit. So I think that could be it. But I think Resident Evil remake remaster, the new one, I think it's absolutely fantastic for the PS4. It's excellent. So I would again give it more a score higher than that. But maybe they're coming at it, IGN are coming at it from like a perspective of they haven't really changed much with it. It's just an updated, like updated graphics, like a sort of HD graphics. So I don't know. It boggles the mind. Now this one I would agree with, although I would give this higher as well. Original Resident Evil 2 is one of the best games ever. I could go back and play it like right now and still get enjoyment out of it. It's absolutely fantastic. Although I'm not as good at it as I used to be. I'm very much out of practice with Resident Evil 2. But I would totally agree with that score. I don't think anyone's disagreeing with that score for the original PlayStation version there. And then the PC version then gets a 6.8. I believe that was because it didn't run very well and there was a lot of screen tearing and graphical issues. And again, it was I think it was quite difficult to actually get the game to run. So I think that score sort of reflects, you know, the difficulty in actually getting the game to run. If I do believe anyway, I'm not sure. Maybe there's another reason as well. But yeah, let's not dwell on that one. And then the Nintendo 64 version, so 9.1 for Nintendo 64, 9.3. So that's interesting because I don't believe they changed that much for the Nintendo 64 version. It's amazing they got it. I think that score is because it's just amazing that they actually fit it onto a cartridge. If you actually think about it, Resident Evil 2 on a Nintendo 64 cartridge is just fantastic, and they got the cutscenes in and a lot of the voice acting as well, which is absolutely amazing. And it looks pretty good on the Nintendo 64 as well. I know the CD quality music and the CD quality, you know, cutscenes isn't as good quality on Nintendo 64, but it's phenomenal that they got it on the cartridge. And then the Dreamcast version, then I understand why they gave it a slightly less score on the Dreamcast because they didn't really like it. Looks a lot better on Dreamcast, obviously, because the Dreamcast is a next gen system to the PlayStation 1, so it's not as kind of washed out or blurry. It's far more clear. And I'm not sure why they gave it a slightly less score. I'd probably give it a higher score than that as well because it's really good playing the Dreamcast, and similarly on the GameCube as well. Yeah, there's the GameCube there. The GCN must be GameCube Nintendo. So they've given it a really low score on the GameCube. Yeah, it's really, really good on the GameCube. So I suspect that's because I think it was out for a few years and they absolutely done nothing with it. So if you compare like Resident Evil 2 on the GameCube and Resident Evil 1 Remake on the GameCube, you know, there's no comparison. Resident Evil 1 Remake looks phenomenal like on the GameCube. You know, compared in comparison to Resident Evil 2, because Resident Evil 2, while it did look amazing in its day when it came out in the late 90s, you know, it's incomparable to Resident Evil 1 Remake, so perhaps that's why such a low score is had there. And then Resident Evil 2 Remake 9.0, I have to say I would give it higher as well. I'd be going towards like 9.5 or 9.7 for that. It's a fantastic remake. Uh, it's an excellent game on its own, even if it wasn't a remake of Resident Evil 2. Although I do have like, you know, qualms with it. I wish they did more with it, obviously, and I wish they put more stuff into it, more interaction with Claire Leon. But it is an excellent game, so I would definitely be putting it up into the nines, alright. So got to agree with IGN there. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis original on the PlayStation 1, 9.4. Does that get more than? Let me just see if it gets more than the PlayStation 1 Resident Evil 2. 9.3 for that one. 9 point. So they have given Nemesis a higher score than Resident Evil 2. That's interesting. I'd give Resident Evil 2 a higher score than Nemesis initially when it came out because Resident Evil 2 was so much of an upgrade on Resident Evil 1 if you think about it. And Resident Evil 3, it's still really good, but a lot of the assets are reused from Resident Evil 2 and the locations, and it seems a bit less because you only have Jill to control. I know you have Carlos as well, but you don't have the two scenarios, so there doesn't seem to be as much as in Resident Evil 2. But you know, for the time, it was absolutely fantastic. You know, the PlayStation was sort of late in its life, and you know, everyone was kind of thinking about the next consoles, and Resident Evil 3 just blew it out of the park. And Nemesis is such a iconic character as well. So yeah, I probably agree with that. And in the Dreamcast version, even though I believe the graphics look better in the Dreamcast version, obviously the backgrounds they look amazing. If you compare the Dreamcast version to the PS1 version, it's so much better. It just looks so much better, and obviously the GameCube version as well. Be interested to see what they give for the GameCube. The PC version, that looks fantastic there, but again, I think it's a low score because of the. I mean, it looks fantastic in comparison to the PlayStation 1 version, which is all blocky and, you know, not pixelated, but it's very blocky. At least the limbs look like limbs in Resident Evil 3. In Resident Evil 2, the limbs don't look like limbs at all, the hands and the legs. But yeah, you got to say, I mean, that even that screenshot there of the Resident Evil Nemesis on PC looks fantastic. So it must be for the lower score must be that they haven't actually done anything with the port. So the game's been out for a number of years. They could have put extra content in. I know they put extra costumes and stuff, particularly in the. I mean, Jill's wearing her original Stars outfit there. They put extra content or costumes into the PC version. but I don't think they put much else, which is kind of the problem. I mean, you have all these years, to come up with a really good port, and then like add to it and make the game better. Maybe even put in the stuff that the original developers, they couldn't do it because of the hardware constraints of the system at the time, and then they just make the port really lazy. And then the GameCube port gets a really low score, even though the graphics are really good on the GameCube. I mean, it's really clear. You can really see, what the backgrounds were intended to and all that. So that's quite surprising. I'm sure there's a reason they gave it such a low score. I mean, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis was an old game, when it came out on the GameCube. So I expect if you compare it to Resident Evil 1 Remake, it just looks really really old in comparison. So maybe that was the problem there. And then Code Veronica at 9.2, I have to agree with that as well, although I'll probably give that higher as well. But I am extremely biased towards Resident Evil games. I'd be giving it up in the mid 9.5 or 9.6 as well. Code Veronica is a fantastic game. It's excellent. Such a good experience. I remember playing it one Christmas for the whole Christmas. I thoroughly enjoyed that Christmas. So yeah, I'd agree with that one. And again, that looks like that's the PlayStation 2 version, right? The first version there must be the version from the GameCube. No, the Dreamcast. It came out originally on the Dreamcast, and then Code Veronica X then is the PS2 version. I suspect they gave it such a low scores because it actually apparently it doesn't look as good as other versions, and the Code Veronica X version, whatever it was about the PlayStation 2, but even though they had more, I don't understand that score actually. They had more content in it as well. You had the Chris sections, so that's a bit of a strange one. I wouldn't agree with that one at all because I played it on PS2 and I'd give it in the mid 9.5, 9.7. So that's strange. Sure, there's a reason. Right, that's the GameCube. I think that's again because they didn't really do much with it. They just basically ported it over. Might have done a couple of things, to the graphics, to the backgrounds as well. I'm not 100% sure, but because I'm not an expert on this at all. I just play the games and watch people talk about them or listen to people talk about them. So yeah, I'm not sure why that's so low. GameCube version Resident Evil 3, or sorry, Resident Evil Code Veronica. It's quite expensive as well at the moment, so that's a strange one there. And then the Code Veronica HD, that's for the PlayStation 3. That came out in Japan with a copy of Resident Evil 4 for the PS3 boxed, but it never came out here in Europe. I think it was a download for the PS3. I never had a PS3 when it came out. I was an Xbox 360 guy. So, and that's strange as well because the HD remake, it looks really good, but again, it's probably just a HD remaster. There's no like, extra bells and whistles on it. So I expect that's why the score is so low. I don't know. Tell me in the comments if you know why the scores are so low here. And then, well, I'd have to agree with that there. Resident Evil Survivor, in comparison to other Resident Evil games, Resident Evil Survivor is not good at all. It is absolutely just a very, very disappointing game. I remember playing it, expecting something akin to like Resident Evil 2, or Resident Evil 3 as well. Because it's got the Resident Evil name on it, and then you control this guy, whoever he is. Apparently, he's friends with Leon. That's the only thing I remember about the whole game, and the two little kids as well. It's like, how do those two kids run around with all those zombies and dogs and monsters and everything, and how did they not get killed? It's very strange. But Resident Evil Survivor, not a good game. It's first person as well. I think they wanted to like promote the gun con, the kind of gun peripheral for the PlayStation 1, and I don't think they ended up doing it because there was something happened in America, I think, and they couldn't release it with the gun. And then Resident Evil Gaiden for the Game Boy Advance, I tried it, I didn't really like it. It's not canon either, and I don't really have much to say about it. Wasn't really a fan. It's an interesting experiment though on the old Game Boy Color, amazingly. So 4.0. Right, Resident Evil Zero, I would actually give that higher. I think they were comparing it a bit to when this came out first. They might have been comparing it to Resident Evil 1 Remake, or the impact of Resident Evil 2 over Resident Evil 1, because Resident Evil 0 doesn't really. I mean, some people would argue that it looks better. Some people argue that Resident Evil 0 is actually the best looking Resident Evil game ever because of the lush backgrounds. The train looks amazing, and some of the mansion, it's so much detail in the mansion, and the characters are, they really look good as well. They really look fantastic for the time. Obviously, Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remake, blow all the graphic stuff away, but that's because, it's like 20 years later. But I love Resident Evil 0. I would give that in the middle of the nines, I think, at 9.2 at least, or 9.3. Not as good as original Resident Evil 2 in my eyes, because that's probably the best Resident Evil game, or Code Veronica, but I really like it. And in Resident Evil 0 for the Wii, then why does the GameCube version look better than the Wii version? That's strange. Or maybe just the quality of the screenshot they took. So Resident Evil Archives, Resident Evil 0, that's where I played it first as well. I did not play Resident Evil 0 on the Wii, or sorry, on the GameCube. I played it on the Wii. I got it for like £2 or something, and I loved it. Again, I found it difficult to play with the the limitations of the Wii controllers, because the Wii controllers are like baby controllers, like so. I really liked it, but I didn't get full enjoyment out of it until I played the remake of it here. Now I would give that way higher. I expect this because they didn't do much with it either. I mean, there is the Albert Wesker mode and the Leech Hunter mode, and there's all these different modes when you complete the game. So I don't know why they're giving it such a low score. Still though, it looks amazing. It actually looks better. The Resident Evil 0 2016 HD remaster is bundled with Resident Evil 1 HD remaster. Well, I have the two of them together on a disc, and I think that Resident Evil 0 looks better than Resident Evil 1, but that's just my imagination. So I would actually rate that way higher. Come on, IGN, what are you doing here? And in Resident Evil Dead Aim, that's pretty high, I think, 6.9 for Resident Evil Dead Aim, because a lot of people don't like Resident Evil Dead Aim. It is interesting what they did, going into a first-person view and then using the gun, or plugging in a mouse, which they didn't. I had Resident Evil Dead Aim when it came out for the PS2 first, and I had no idea you could plug in a mouse. It might have been written somewhere, but I didn't check it. Um, I don't think I used the gun either. I think I just used the joypad, and it's not really enjoyable with the joypad. It's very difficult to play it, because it was intended to use like a gun or a mouse, I think so. But you can play it with a joypad. It's okay. It's just not really detailed. It seems a bit rushed. The story's a bit ridiculous. Like, but I like it anyway. I'd probably give it about a 7 or 7.1, something like that. Resident Evil Outbreak. I don't really like Resident Evil Outbreak at all. I spoke about this before, but you could. I've heard it's good when you play with other people, when you play it online, but I didn't like the single player version, so I don't agree with that score. I'd give it way less than that. Wasn't a fan of it at all. And then File 2 as well, which is just basically the stuff that they left out of the first game and then they put into a second game. So it's like just like different missions with much the same characters, a couple of different characters. I think that girl that works for Umbrella's in it. I wouldn't give that that high of a score at all. I'd be giving it way less. Resident Evil 4 then. This always baffles me. I know Resident Evil 4 was such a an upgrade of the other Resident Evil games, and it basically like created the genre of like over the shoulder third person shooter. But I just don't think it's that good. I'd rather the other Resident Evil games. It is a good game. I remember again when it came out first, I played it to death, and I really enjoyed it, and I loved the mercenary missions on it. But in comparison to other Resident Evil games, I'd play other Resident Evil games over Resident Evil 4, so I don't really agree with that score there. Probably give it a bit less, but still a quality game. And then so this must have been the GameCube version that you're giving that score to, and then the PS2 version then gets 9.5, still a high score. PC version, I don't even remember that scene there. What's that scene from? Oh, that's the regenerator. 7.7. Again, I think that's because why did the PC games get so less of a score? I think it's when they ported the PC, there's just like problems running, or problems with the music, or aliasing, or problems with the screen tearing, or unknown. Resident Evil 4 Wii then. Resident Evil 4 Wii, apparently, I thought they might have, I suppose they'd probably give it the high score, but when the game comes out originally for whatever console, but I thought they might give the Wii a higher score because of everyone's raving about using the nunchuck and the directional thing together, or the gun on the nunchuck and the directional thing together, and it was very, very good, but I don't know, it was okay on Wii. The problem with Wii is that it didn't have HDMI, and it looks really washed out when you play it today, obviously. And then the PS3 version, I haven't played that, so I can't speak of it. I think that's the one that came out with Code Veronica, and then it was just like a HD remaster, but I'm not sure if they did much to it, to be honest, but I don't know. I don't know what this is. It's Resident Evil The Missions. I think this is a mobile phone game, so I can't really speak of that. That's really high, 8.5, so must be pretty good if it's 8.5. Like, as in, it's better than, the PC version of Resident Evil 2. It's a bit strange. Umbrella Chronicles was okay. I wouldn't give it that high of a score. It was alright. It was nice to go back to Resident Evil 1 and all that, or sorry, Resident Evil 0, and the bits with Wesker was pretty good. But it's just an on-rail shooter, so it's good with two people, and it's good with the gun for Wii. But it's not. I wouldn't enjoy it as much as other Resident Evil games. It doesn't have the depth to it. Resident Evil Genesis. I had this on the phone, on my one of my really bad phones, and I thought it was terrible. I remember, I think I had it anyway. I had one of them. It mightn't have been this one. I had one of them with Leon, where you go around the police station, and it was awful. But it was Resident Evil. I didn't care. I played it on my phone anyway. My crappy Triumph, not Triumph. Triumph wouldn't run that. It was a Vivaz, or it was an iPhone 4 or something. I can't remember what it was. No idea what that is. 9.0 for Resident Evil 5. I probably agree with that. I might give it a little less. I really like Sheva, but I don't like Chris's steroided boulder punching, stupidity. It is a good game though. It's more of an action game, but yeah, I'd have to agree with there. Give it a high score. And then the PC version gets a higher score. That's strange. This is a first for IGN. They're giving the PC game the PC version a higher score. I assume this one is for the Xbox 360 and the PS3. So the PC version apparently is better. It looks better there. Actually, looks HD. And then that's the DLC I think for it. So maybe they gave it a low score because there wasn't much in it. Not sure. I don't think I actually played that. Unless I do have Resident Evil 5 Gold Edition, so maybe it's in it. I can't remember now. It's a while ago I played it. Now this one's actually better than the original one, than the Umbrella Chronicles, because obviously Leon, Ada, you get that, you get to go back to Resident Evil 2, but you also get some backstory for Leon and Krauser from Resident Evil 4 as well. So pretty entertaining, pretty good, but not great. I wouldn't agree with that score. Resident Evil Mercenaries Versus. I don't know what that is. Is that the one for the 3DS? I think that one was for 3DS, but I don't know. I haven't played it. I was going to get it, but I'm not 100% sure about it. That's it. The Mercenaries 3D. What's that then? Mercenary Versus. Maybe it's a phone game as well. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Resident Evil Revelations. I would not give that such a high score. It seems like Resident Evil Light. It's like they were going to make a Resident Evil game, and then they were like, let's not put that much effort into it. You have to remember though, there is a caveat. Like, it was on the 3DS, so maybe they were limited by the hardware. And then when they upgraded it then I have it on the Xbox 360, and it just wasn't as good as other Resident Evil games. It's still okay though. I like the story, the crazy B movie story. Resident Evil Revelations HD then. Again, what did I give it? 8.5 and then 7.5. I think it's probably more 7.5 to be honest. It's not as good as the other Resident Evil games. Even the enemies in it, not great. Operation Raccoon City is dirt. I hated it. I remember picking it up and I was like, oh, a new Resident Evil game, and I was so disappointed. So I have to agree there. Resident Evil 6, I'd probably give it more because I really like the Leon and Helena campaign. Um, I mean, what can you say? I've spoken about Resident Evil 6 before, so I won't dwell on it. But I don't know. I think it's higher than that. And then Resident Evil is this. Oh, it's all the episodes. Resident Evil Revelations 2, I know it came out in different episodes. I think Resident Evil Revelations 2 is better. That's the full game there for the PS4 probably. It's better than Resident Evil Revelations 1. But again, it's the same sort of, like, it's like Resident Evil Light. It's like they just didn't put as much effort into it as the previous ones. Like, even with the, conserving ammo, you just, like, you don't really have as much, like, I need to keep this ammo for the end of the game. So I don't know. Still good though. Umbrella Corpse, absolute dirt. I mean, just pathetic. Resident Evil 7, I don't really like Resident Evil 7. I'm surprised it got that such low of a score though, because I believe it was a very popular game. I played it from start to finish, but it's just not for me. I like Jack Baker there and all that, but it just wasn't for me. And then I have to give that a 9.8, 9.9. It's such an excellent game. Love it. It's fantastic. The graphics in it are they're just phenomenal. Like, it's amazing what they did. I hate Claire's little gun there actually. Just looking at it. Leon's got his Matilda, and Claire's got that crappy 6-shooter that's really weak. But yeah, that's a phenomenal game. Resident Evil 3, I'm surprised they gave it such a high score, to be honest. I love Resident Evil 3. If you compare it to Resident Evil 3, the original Resident Evil 3, then there's no comparison because the original Resident Evil 3 is so much better. But I still really like Resident Evil 3 Remake, even though I know a lot of the parts are like, it is obviously a DLC because, you can even see, like, when Nemesis is chasing you at the start, it's like a movie playing, so you can't collect anything or you don't have any, no inventory and stuff like that. So, but they did make it better, and they tried their best. Well, they didn't try their best, but I think they were constrained by budget or something. But I really like Resident Evil 3. Okay, that's strange. Resident Evil 3 single. Oh, that's the single player review. That's strange. They must have had two reviews on it. Anyway, 9 again. Okay, that's them all there. So, Right, so thanks very much for watching or listening to Resident Evil Relaxation here today, and let me know what you think of IGN's Resident Evil reviews, whether you agree with them or disagree with them, and let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.